Spiritual, religious. Spiritual, religious. How would you describe yourself? Are you a spiritual person or are you religious? What do the words actually mean? There's a big rise in the popularity of the term spiritual nowadays, and we find that on YouTube even many prominent atheists describe themselves as spiritual. So these terms, spiritual and religious, they're confusing, and we need to get to understand what they mean a bit better. Now, if I say the word religion to you, what comes to mind? Maybe war, hypocrisy, scandals, rituals, boring? And what about if I say the word spiritual? Maybe you think of feeding the poor, freedom, happiness, joy, yoga. So we're going to explore these terms in a bit more detail, and I'm going to hand it over to our monk in Krishna Wisdom Studios, Sutapa.
A modern concept in the world today is SBNR, spiritual but not religious. Sometimes people equate religion with dogma, religion with control, institution, ritual, religion with sectarianism. And on the other hand, people see spirituality as about freedom of expression, unity, experience. Spirituality is all about individuality. And in that way, people are tending more towards spirituality than religion. In essence, whether we call ourselves religious or spiritual, the main purpose of each one of them is to help us connect to something higher. In fact, the etymological root of religion is that which connects, or that which links us to something higher. So whether one is religious or spiritual, the essence of life is, as a spirit soul, connecting with the Supreme Spirit. And that connection with the Supreme Spirit must be free of material motivation. In the Islamic tradition, we hear the story of the saint lady who one day came outside of her house with 2 buckets. In one bucket, she had a raging fire, and in another bucket, she had cold water. When asked by someone what the meaning of this was, she said, "The mission of my life is to burn up the heavens with the fire. And with the bucket of water, I want to extinguish the flames of hell." And when asked why she wanted to do this, she explained most people practice religion because they want some kind of material enjoyment in the higher realms. Or they practice religion because they want to avoid some terrible destiny in hell. But I want to teach the world that the purpose of religion is neither material enjoyment nor the escape from suffering, but the purpose of religion is to develop true love. So anything which helps one develop pure, unadulterated, untainted, selfless love is to be known as the highest religion and the highest spirituality. When looking at the diversity of religion, we could take a few different stances. One stance we could take is the stance of exclusivism, to say that one religion is right and everyone else is wrong. Yet if God were unlimited, how could we conclude that one religion has a monopoly on consciousness of God? It seems unreasonable. On the other extreme, we could go for a stance of pluralism, to say that there are many paths. As many people as there are, there's that many paths, and whatever you follow, you will connect with God. While it sounds more peace-loving and all-embracing, logically, it doesn't make so much sense. The exclusivist is likened to someone who says, "My university is the only university." And the pluralist is likened to someone who says, any building that you walk down in the road is a university. Therefore, the Vedic teachers give us a middle path known as inclusivism. What they explain is that every religion stems from a divine source, that God, either himself or through his messengers, initiated different religious processes at different times, places, and circumstances in the course of history, in order to teach the people of that time in a way that was relevant and appropriate to them. Just as in schools we have different classes for students of different levels, similarly different religions are all essentially pointing towards the same God, but giving different levels of evolution of thought on the way there. And therefore, rather than trying to claim one religion has a monopoly, we can see that every religion, if followed with sincerity, purity, and genuine desire to connect with God, can render someone spiritual advancement. Yet within the diversity of religions, we do find there is a hierarchy. And if one wants to know which is the most evolved religious process, one can look at how much auspiciousness that religion creates in the world. One can look at how relevant their instructions and their guidance is over generations. One can look at the beauty of the religion and how much it poetically describes the nature and character and qualities of God. And one can look at comprehensiveness of the philosophy that that religion propounds and how much it's able to answer our questions and queries of life. So every religion points towards God, but they're each at their own level of evolution. And in this way we can maturely understand the diversity of religions that we see in the world today. In previous videos we've talked about the most basic foundational knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. The concept that the body is simply a vehicle and that we are actually spiritual entities animating this body. If you look at the world we live in today, if people had this basic understanding that the body is simply temporary dress, then would you have nationalism? If people understood that the body was simply a temporary identity, would we have sexism? If people understood that they were more than just this superficial image, would we have racism? No. If we look at any problem we see in the world today, it begins from what we call the bodily concept of life. The world we live in today is plagued by terrorism. Terrorism is more than the violent attacks that we see on the news. Our society today suffers from the terrorism of the environment. Every single year, 2 billion tons of waste are pumped into the world's oceans. Our world suffers from terrorism of children. Almost 50 million babies are aborted before even being born. Our world faces the terrorism of animals, with 40 billion animals being slaughtered every single year. We even see the terrorism of our own minds in a world where mental health problems are 3 times more common than cancer. These problems that we see in the world today are due to a lack of spirituality. To try to solve these problems on the material level through material solutions will at best be stopgap. In order to find deeper, sustainable, genuine solutions to the world's problems, we have to address these material problems through spiritual solutions. And therefore the Bhagavad Gita and its wisdom is not simply meant to bring about internal transformation, but global transformation through a revolution in consciousness.